Hey everybody, how you doing? It is Thursday evening after work. I'm out in the shop, and let me show you what I'm working on. My lathe, one of the drive pulleys, and it's warped. It wobbles when it runs. And I've been using a piece of hard maple, and I'm turning a pulley. I just got this down to the interior size. I've got that part there. You can see, get all this sawdust out of the way. You see that fits down in there quite nicely. I'm getting ready to turn the same groove here, and then we'll take this on down, to some type of a stem that I can use to attach it to the shaft. Will this work? I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at this. It's supposed to be a piece of hard maple, but look at that. It's got a lot of voids in it. But the thing is, if I make this and it looks like it's going to work, I can always go back and purchase a much harder piece of wood. Although this feels pretty stable. This came from a furniture company. So we're going to see if that'll work. I hope it does. It might. I mean, it's not going to be a permanent solution, but it'll get me going for a while. And that may be good enough until I can get that lathe going over there. And then possibly I can buy a piece of aluminum and turn one out of some aluminum. I've been out here for about an hour, but I need to go in. My wife just got home and she said dinner's in 5 minutes. So I'm going to do that. And hopefully I'll get some time to come back out here tonight. I do have a package I need to open, a little mail call for you guys. And I'm working on the Notre Dame blank. I'll talk a little bit about that. But let me shut down the shop for now, get some dinner, and we'll see how the evening goes. I'm back out in the shop. I've made a lot more progress on the pulley. The pulley was perfectly round, perfectly balanced. And then this is the part that just drives me nuts about this lathe. The tailstock is a piece of junk. And I'm being very polite because I have a lot of family members, young family members who watch the show. So I'm not using the language that I would like to use. Let's just say that. Because when I drilled the hole, let me show you. I got a bit the exact size of the shaft. I think it's 3/4. While it was still on the chuck, I drilled a hole right down through supposedly the center of the pulley. Look at it now. It's got just a little bit of wobble. And the reason why is because this piece of junk, this POJ tailstock, drills at an angle. And you can line it up, but you've really got to fiddle with it. And let me show you. I mean, if it's loose, look how much play is in this thing. See that? Look at the end of the bit. That's how much play I've got. And that's why I wanted a metal lathe to get away from that. So now I've got this pulley that I made, which in theory should have worked great, but the hole down the middle is at an angle because of this, and that's where I'm at. So I may have to make another one. I'm going to pop it on the lathe and just see what type of vibration I get over there. My main thing was to kill some of the noise because that clackety-clack noise was just a little too much to listen to while you were turning. So I'll take this one over there and put it on that lathe and see what happens. I may end up making another one, I'm probably going to have to make a couple of them before I can get the silly thing to work. But really, I was to the point where I was going to run a couple of screws down through the front of there to be able to lock it in place. It doesn't really get a lot of resistance, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. Let me put it on the shaft over there, and we'll take a peek at it on that lathe. I've got my pulley on the spindle, and I put the belt on it, and it ran for a little bit. Then it started slipping because it didn't really have a grub screw or anything. I've taken a chisel and I've flattened off a spot there. I'm going to mark this nut, the center of it, drill a hole down through there that will accept this screw. Of course, I'm going to have to shorten it, and I will epoxy that nut on there. And then there's a flat spot on the shaft, and I'll be able to, like I said, I'll cut this off to, I don't know, maybe about there. And then I can run that down in there and help grip this pulley on the spindle. Now you can see I got a little bit of glue up there. When I was trying to get it off the spindle, I tapped it with a rubber mallet, and of course I hit it with the grain as opposed to against the grain, and chipped a little piece off. But that wood glue ought to, once it dries, ought to help, and it shouldn't be a problem. Like I said, this is a temporary fix just to get things going. If I can get this lathe working, I'll buy a piece of aluminum or trade for a piece and see if I can turn one out of aluminum on this lathe. I think that might just work. All I've got to do now is go ahead and get this nut epoxied onto this pulley and let that dry, and then I think we'll be able to tighten it right down and use it. I like it. I got a little bit of epoxy all around the hole. I laid the nut on there, and then I put epoxy on the side of the nut and on the front to really just kind of lock it on. I don't know how well you can see, but I did hit dead center of the hole, so I'm happy about that. Just need to let it solidify overnight. When I put the pulley on here and I applied the belt and gave it some tension, it did have a little bit of a wobble, but nowhere near as bad as the aluminum pulley. That thing, you can see how warped it is. It's probably got a 1/16 of an inch warp in it. So this is not going to be perfect, but I think it's going to be good enough to get this lathe going, which is my objective. And then once I do, one of the first projects I can do is make myself a pulley here, and hopefully I go ahead and measure these pulleys up front. I can use these as a reference because I should have the same thing on the back side. So hopefully I can make a set of each. You know, will I be able to? I don't know. Not until I try, but I do plan to try. This should be a lot of fun. So basically, show you a couple other things here. This is the Notre Dame blank. And in the video, I pressed it together, and the wood is soft. It's been out in the weather for however many years, sun, rain, snow, everything. And when I pressed it together, let me see if I can find the spot. There it is right there. The wood actually crushed, and you can see the tube there. And that just basically, I have a rubber pad here, and that was on the rubber pad end when I pressed the cap into this end, and it crushed it. So I've got the other half of the blank over here gluing up, and what I'm doing right now is I'm soaking it in CA because, you know, it's weathered and there is cracks in it. I'm going to fill it with CA, and once the CA has solidified and the blank is tight and all the gaps are filled, I'll take it to the lathe and turn it. And last night I had an epiphany. I came up with a way that I can press that together without damaging it, and I really like it. It's pretty exciting. I'm not going to talk about it in this video because I did everything in the video that I made of this, and at the end I show where it crushed it. And what I'm going to do is turn the other half of the blank, and I'm going to come back and say, hey, okay, I've turned the other half of the blank. Same process as before. Here it is. Let me show you this little trick, and I think you guys are going to like it. It's down and dirty. It's cheap, but it is going to ensure that this never happens again. Got the Notre Dame blank turned, and since it's so soft, instead of sanding it with standard sandpaper, I just went ahead and used the Zona dry, and it put a really nice finish on it. It needs to be cleaned up and get a CA glue finish applied, and we'll start working on that next. Well, guys, I've been working away on this Notre Dame blank. Let me show her to you. I've got 5 coats of thin and 2 coats of medium. It's really soaking it up. You know, I guess the wood being so weathered, I probably will go ahead and put 2, maybe 3 more coats of medium on there before I start buffing it, but it's looking really good. So I'm excited about that. Also, I just cut the end off this, and I haven't looked in. This is from Franklin E. Keeley at Hobby Woodworks, and he sent me this. It came in the mail yesterday, and I haven't opened it yet. I'm excited about this, so let's do it together. Oh, wow. Take a look at that. That is some gorgeous spalted wood. See if I can get that out of there. It's kind of hard to do with the tape on my finger. That's beautiful wood. Franklin, thank you. Let me pause the camera and get it out of this bag. Take a look at the note. Hurricane Michael, 10-10-18, debris that spalted. Just a small piece of over 100 million tons of debris. Please enjoy turning. Franklin Keeley of Hobby Woodworks. Isn't that incredible? Right out of Hurricane Michael. I'm going to enjoy turning these blanks. I really am. Hopefully I can do them justice. That's some beautiful wood. Thank you so much, Franklin. I really appreciate that. I just finished buffing this blank, but I'm not happy with it. Take a look at this. Let me get you rolled over here. Look at that. You couldn't see it until you got the wax on there and the buffing compound. There were some pock marks, maybe some bubbles in the CA, and I sanded through them or polished through them with the polishing paper, and of course they collected a ton of dust from the buffing rosin and from the slurry of the polishing paper, and you can see that now. So I'm going to have to take this finish off and reapply it. Some days you just can't win. I'm going to stick it up over here for now. I'm done tonight. If I keep fiddling with it, I'll just mess it up. I'm going to leave it go. Next time I come out to the shop, what I'll do is I'll take maybe some 400 grit and I'll sand that down, rough that surface up, clean it again really good with denatured alcohol, and then I'll put a couple of more coats of medium on there. It's already sealed with the thin, but what I'm guessing is there had to be some air bubbles in that finish. And when I polished, I hit the top of those bubbles, opened them up. When they opened up, they just fill up with all the gunk. That's about it for me tonight, guys. I've had a busy night. It's been a good night. It's been a fun night, but I think I'm going to call it quits. I got a couple of things drying up glue-wise. I want to let that glue dry. I'm hoping to get back out here tomorrow night, possibly. Maybe we can work on the pin. Maybe we can work on the pulley because the glue will be dry. I've got all those little glue-up pieces over there on the table. So got a bunch of odds and ends going on. So, but that's it. Have a great night. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you again very, very soon.